Hello and welcome to a video where here we will be looking at a very typical endgame position in chess. So how do we reach such a position? Well, usually if all pieces have been traded, so you take a piece, the opponent takes a piece, you take a piece, the opponent takes a piece, and so on. But let's say in a position where you've attacked an opponent's pawn twice and the opponent has only defended that same pawn once, you're going to end up being up a pawn. Other things could happen, but that is just a scenario. All I want to say is that this is very typical of a winning advantage that you could have. But although this is winning in theory, it's another thing to turn that theory into practice and realize that winning. So the key principle here is called opposition. Now, what is opposition? Well, let me just move these pieces. Let me just move this king, and this person moves this king, and like this, and so on. This position is called opposition. Okay, this is opposition because the kings are facing each other, and if you remember from the first video that I posted about the kings can never actually be right next to each other. This is the closest, based on the board and geometry of the board, that is, that two kings can be to each other. Because you can't put yourself in check, you can't attack your king with another king, otherwise your king would get taken, and that just doesn't work. So opposition is like this, and the person who plays the move next is actually the one at a disadvantage. So in this situation, as I played, it was actually white who played the move last, so it's now black's turn. Because it's now black's turn, black's at a disadvantage because black can't go here or here or here, as we've discussed, so black has to move out the way. And then now, white can move his king, or can move their king like that, and black can't really go here or here, so black just has to allow that thing to happen. Let me show what this looks like in practice as I play the actual scenario. So let me go back here, and I'll actually play it against the computer. And with this, we get the pawn to the other side. Can you remember why it's important to get the pawn to the other side? What happens? If you remember the previous lesson on the pawn, maybe you can tell me. If you can't, then you'll see, so not to worry. So I'm going to continue from here, play against the computer, and play as white. So I'm playing against Stockfish level 8. So you have to know what you're doing, otherwise Stockfish will take advantage and try to draw. As white, you don't want to draw because this is a theoretically winning position. As black, you'd love to draw because you're theoretically losing. So, just making sure that I get my king moving like this. Okay, so now we get to this situation. There we go, here we have it. We have this opposition style move. Now I could keep using this opposition, but actually I could, and do it like this. So now I'm going to do this, and if I do this, I'm good, because now I just keep pushing. But now what I want to make sure that I do is I want to make sure that I keep controlling the squares. Let's call them E5, E6, E7, E8. I want to keep controlling those squares. That's the idea. Okay, so in an ideal situation, black would want to penetrate one of these squares, but we're not going to let them do that. Okay, so I'm just going to keep doing that. Actually, even this doesn't matter. So this is very important. We want to cause opposition. So we managed to get to the E8 square, but that's okay. Because remember, I want the king facing the other king so that it's then black's turn to move, and black will have to move out the way. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Okay, now black's moved here. I can take control of their e6, e7, and e8 squares by moving my king to f7. Now this is great because I can move my pawn right through from e6 to now e7 to now e8. And this is the magic. Your pawn can be promoted to a queen or a knight or a rook or a bishop. Now, if you promote to a queen, you're good. If you promote to a rook, you're good. You cannot promote to a knight or a bishop, otherwise you will not win. It will be a draw. You cannot checkmate with just one bishop or just one knight. So I could do a rook, but I'm going to do a queen. It would be a nice refresher from having done lesson 3 or lesson 3.1, for those who've been watching the full series, for how to checkmate with a queen and king versus a king. So I'm just going to move closer. So I'm creeping closer, remembering that the queen can control all of these squares. So where there are dots, the king actually can't move onto those pieces. So we're really trapping. I'm going to creep closer, but I don't want to go right next to the king because otherwise it would take me. So I'm going to keep doing this. Okay. Now, I kind of want to, if I move down again, the king will simply move up, and I don't want that. So I'm going to now waste the move with the queen by using the king to move closer. Okay, great. Now I can creep a bit closer without going too close to the king. And let's go again. Great. Now we've got the king on the edge, which is amazing. And then, as a way to not have to think too much about it, I'm just going to move my queen closer, like this, and like this. Remember, do not move to f2. If you do move to f2, what happens? Let me know in the comments. I'm going to instead move my king like this, and again, and again. I'm even going to pre-move this. It's checkmate! Okay, so I knew that was a move to do because the black king could only move to g1, so I needed moving my queen to g2 would be checkmate. Look at that, it's checkmate. The king cannot take my queen because then my king would take. There's that opposition going on again. And now the king also can't even get away from the queen because the queen controls the f1, the g1, and the h1 squares too. So that's it. That is how we convert that pawn endgame into an actual winning situation and then carry it through to the end. You'll see a lot more pawn endgames where you'll actually start to see the power of the pawns versus certain pieces. I'll show you that in the next video. Take care for now.